Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome to episode 56 of Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry, and we're going to continue with our film review in a way here. Yeah, all the work we've put in, all the work that's coming up, we're going to kind of make sure we set our goals correctly, make sure our sights are set on probably differing things, but it's important to have a plan going into the off season. And I like to simulate it. And there's a lot of simulators out there, and we will do a lot of mock draft simulators over the next 3 months or so until the draft actually gets here. But there's also an off-season simulator at fanspeak.com that I like to use, and they give me the login there with the ultimate GM access, no ads and all that. So I appreciate the guys over there, Steve and your wife, to give me the login for Fanspeak. But we're going to use that to go over the free agency and re-signing and some of the decision making that's going to have to take place for the Bengals before you even get to the draft. Remember, free agency comes before the draft. If you're one of the people that are, well, we can't focus on tight end because we need an offensive tackle, because we need a defensive tackle. True statements. I get it. Those positions are more important. But if you address those in free agency, if you walk into the draft with very little needs, you can go one of two ways. You can go many ways, but one of two very important ways would be: one, you fill every need you have, even if it's a minor guy with like Nick Scott. Like, okay, we don't expect him to be a long-term starter, but we're going to sign this guy in free agency just in case we don't get a safety in the draft. And they thought Nick Scott would be more, but he's just an example. And that way we can leave the draft completely open. And you can take a Miles Murphy in the first round because you're not pressing to take a position. Now, I would say they came out of that draft and didn't address tight end last year, which they should have at some point, right? But the other way is you leave a need clearly open, saying we're going to fill this in the draft regardless of what happens. And you end up with Frank Ragnow going one pick ahead of you, and you say, well, we need a center, so we're taking Billy Price. We'll take the next best guy. We want to avoid that, in my opinion. You don't want to be pigeonholed. And if you are, because you don't fill everything or feel great about filling everything, you can't panic and force yourself to fill those needs. So today's episode will be how we manage the cap, how we cut, resign, extend, and then walk into free agency with a plan and simulate signing some of these targets that could be out there for the Bengals in March. And it's a whole process, but we'll get to it. And then this will lead directly into Friday's show, which Friday's show will be taking what we did today and going into Friday and drafting based on what we did in free agency. So you'll have to watch this episode in order to understand Friday's episode. But I guarantee there will be people that do not watch that one and say that mock draft doesn't make any sense. You didn't draft a defensive tackle. Well, I signed 3 of them. So let's go head into the offseason simulator and see how it goes. So if you want to try this yourself at any point, head over to fanspeak.com and click on their Ultimate GM 2024, which is where I'm at now. You hit simulate, you pick your team. We're picking the Bengals. We'll do 7 rounds for this draft. Obviously, that'll be for Friday's section of the board. Picking all classic. I like when the computer has a different random team than I do when we get to the draft, so that doesn't affect our free agency portion of this show. So the salary cap is at $224.8 million total. The Bengals are carrying over $10 million, which in truth, it's 10.77. Doesn't really matter. We just want to be close enough. I will explain some of the quirks with this app. While it's fun overall, there are some things that, I would upgrade everything if possible, right? That's how I am. Nothing is ever good enough, and I give them feedback all the time. But there are some things to know in order to play this game. We got a little bit of dead money here. we're reserving $5 million for cap space. I mean, for draft picks, $5 million in cap space for draft picks. That's almost more of an accounting thing. Like, yeah, we're gonna have to make 9 picks here. It should take about $5 million to sign them all. But for every rookie contract player that makes the roster, a veteran is going to lose his roster spot. So you almost save money. It's never as much as they say. So when you go to Bengals.com and they do their projection, I'm not even sure if Jeff Hobson does this anymore. It used to be a thing on the internet where we'd, be like, come on, Jeff, that's not what's going to happen. It's not how the Bengals operate, or that they don't have to do it this way. They don't have to play with one hand behind their back. You don't have to toe the company line. But he was just doing his thing. But he would always say they need $7 million to sign draft picks. You really don't, because you're displacing a veteran. So your top 51 players count against the cap. Everyone else does not. You don't have to worry about everyone else. So that leaves the Bengals with $46.5 million to spend. Great. We will take that. That's a lot of money. And that is putting them in a good situation. So first things first, I do want to point out that not every free agent is going to be listed. Not every roster player is listed here. First things first for us to do is to say, do we want to restructure or do we want to cut any player, any veteran that's currently on the Bengals roster? Now, I'm going to do this more like how the Bengals would do it. Okay, so I'm not going to go absolutely crazy here and try and trade T. Higgins or anything like that. Now, the Bengals could trade T, but you know, chances I think most people would agree are slim. But I'm also not going to restructure BJ Hill and Sam Hubbard like the Browns would. I think a lot of teams would. And you can see what it would. Well, you can click this button here on the right side, and it says Sam Hubbard, if you were to lower his cap hit to 5.15 million rather than 10.15 million, what you're doing there is you're converting his $10 million cap hit to the lowest base salary possible, giving him the rest of that money so he still gets his money. It never changes for him, but you're going to give him a signing bonus up front, and I'm going to spread that signing bonus out over a number of years. So $5 million there, it seems. I can only reduce him down to 5.15, I think it was. So the other 5, I'm going to give him cash up front, and I'm going to spread that out. I believe you can spread it out up to 5 years. So you can kick that can down the road and take $1 million hit next year, the year after, yada, yada, yada. Well, I guess it'd be 4 years if you didn't want to put it all in this year. So 4 more years. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that with Hill and Hubbard because I don't think the Bengals would. But it is a way that I could save if I do that for both of them real quick. Yeah, it looks like I could save about another $10 million and push those cap hits to future years. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to cut Joe Mixon. And I think Joe Mixon had a fine year with the Bengals. I think Joe Mixon still can be a very good power back and probably start for a team somewhere around the league. I think he'd probably be best in a dual running back rotation. But the ability to save $5.75 million, I think we could use that. I think I can get a running back and possibly a tight end. I think I can get, and I'm talking depth players, but I think I can get a starting defensive tackle. And to me, that 5 million, 5.75 could be better spent. And I kind of want to draft a running back this year too. And I know it's not a crazy good class, but when we get to it, that third, fourth round is ripe every time. The other guy I'm going to cut is Nick Scott, 2.3 million savings. Probably going to take that and put that right onto a free safety that can give us a strong 3 safety look, give us more versatility, free up Dax Hill to do more things that Dax Hill should do. But in all, now we sit at $54.6 million. And I'm going to scroll down and say, all right, let's go on to the next step. And these are all the other moves from around the league that pops up next. It says, yes, Stephon Diggs was restructured. Josh Allen was restructured by the Bills. So like an example, I said the Browns would do that. The Browns just did a whole bunch of restructuring. The Bills just did a whole bunch of restructuring. Those are teams that have to get under the cap. It makes sense that they have to do that. Now, these are the players that are going to give us an attempt to re-sign. Now, you could re-sign Joe Mixon here and say, hey, he would make less money. I'm going to quickly say the most likely thing the Bengals do is franchise tag T. Higgins. And yes, it's going to cost us $21 million, knocking our cap space down to $32 million right away. But after that, I don't think we're resigning Tyler Boyd. I don't think we're resigning Irv Smith. I don't think we're resigning Jonah Williams. I don't think we're resigning Chidobe Awuzie. Maybe if he sits out there in free agency, we can bring him back as a cornerback number 4. I'm not against that at all. And then the other one is DJ Reader. We can try and sign DJ Reader and see how it goes. And you can see how this process works. All right. So we're going to say, hey, Reader, you're hurt right now. Let's try and get you on a reasonable contract. How about $10.5 million a year? Enough zeros. There we go. For 2 years. And we're going to guarantee, I'll guarantee 50% of this. So I'll guarantee the first year, the 10.5 million. That's what the Bengals would do. And I can offer that. And that's rejected. Now we have to decide for ourselves. Do we want to go higher? I know if Reader was healthy, he'd probably get about $15 million for the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, as long as he ends up playing. So maybe we increase this a little bit more. Maybe we go 12.750, 1, 2, 3. 12 million, 12.75 million for 2 years. And we will guarantee 50% of it. The Bengals will guarantee a first year on that offer rejected. I don't know that I want to go higher than that. I don't know if I give him 12, that leaves us with 20. So if we're not going any farther, there is one more thing that this app doesn't allow us to do, but there's a lot more other players that we need to be wary of and a lot more other players that we need to attend to. And that's where I'm pulling this up. Now, we've got Tanner Hudson, Trenton Irwin, Drew Sample, Akeem Davis-Gaither, Marcus Bailey, Max Sharping, Cody Ford, Jake Browning, Cal Itemitis, Travion Williams, Mitchell Wilcox, and Joe Bacci. All are free agent depth players. If we're saying exclusive rights free agents, Cal Itemitis and Jake Browning are going to be retained at a minimum salary. That's what that means. They really can't even deny it. You say, here's your minimum salary, and they have to sign it. We're looking at less than $1 million for each of those two players, around 2 million, 1.8 total. If we want Cody Ford, Max Sharping, Marcus Bailey, I think you can get them back on a small veteran increase. We're talking $1.3 million each for them. I think that's fair. The two guys here that I'm not sure about, and I'm working my way up this list, Akeem Davis-Gaither and Drew Sample. I'd love to have both. I'd give them both about $2.5 million if they return on that. If either one got offered more money, I'd let them walk. Because number one, at linebacker, the Bengals are already paying 2 veteran starters. And then number 3, I'm keeping Marcus Bailey at 1.3 because I think Bailey can play number 1 and he's a good special teamer number 2. I'm keeping Marcus Bailey. I don't want to spend now for a 4th, even though Akeem Davis-Gaither is the 3rd linebacker. I don't want to spend for another depth player. And you'll see down there, Joe Bacci's listed at the same. If he's 1.3, then he's got to go as well. I'm not keeping him. I'm not keeping Mitch Wilcox at a restricted tender. He's a restricted free agent based on Spotrac. I use Spotrac for this. He, meaning Wilcox, Trenton Irwin, and Tanner Hudson are all restricted free agents. If you want to tender them with the lowest amount of tender, it is $2.8 million. And I'm going to put that on Trenton Irwin and Tanner Hudson. Hudson at $2.8 million is a fair deal. If I can get Sample back as well at 2.5, I would take it. I'm gonna work under the assumption that I got these guys back at these prices, which is another $16 million against the cap. That leaves us with $16 million to spend in free agency, which is why, again, spending 12 to 13 on Reader makes it very, very tough. Now, I'm going to move on and hit the button here. And this shows me what all the other teams did in the league. They've simulated it for everyone. So, guys, if you were interested in Gabe Davis, the Bills were able to re-sign Gabe Davis at $14 million per year. I'm not interested in that. Darnell Mooney, if you're interested in that, he re-signed for 7.9 per year. Man, I would take Darnell Mooney at 7.9 per year in Trey T. Higgins. I'm be honest with you. I think that'd be a great number 2. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all these. These are interesting. If you're interested in Hunter Henry resigned with the New England Patriots. Michael Onwenu resigned with the New England Patriots. So, I mean, it happens if you're looking for a guy here when I end up clicking the button to go next and you're like, hey, where is that guy? He's supposed to be a free agent. Well, the teams also agreed that they wanted that player and signed him. So, like I said, that the guys they don't have for me to resign would bring us down to $16 million. I'm not going to be as strict with that because I believe you can go over the cap a little bit. If I have to restructure Sam Hubbard and BJ Hill to get another 10 million, I will later. Like that's always a decision you can make. Plus, like I said, any rookie that makes the roster. So say I sign a Marcus Bailey to 1.3, and then you draft a linebacker in the third round and he's better than Marcus Bailey. Well, I just saved money because that guy's going to make less than Marcus Bailey. So it's not a concrete thing when you're signing these guys now for the top 51. They're more placeholders, so know what you have. So free agency has started. This is how the app works. I'm going to quickly go right to offensive tackle. Austin Jackson actually already signed an extension, so they don't have that in here. He signed that in December. 16 million a year. Was it 3, 4, or 13 million? With the Dolphins, though. So I'm not going to go after an Austin Jackson here. But looking at tackle right away, is there anyone that piques our interest? Jonah Williams being the best one that's also young. Mekhi Becton with a lot of issues. But I would be interested if he remains cheap. Trent Brown, I'm interested in if he can remain cheap. Moving down the list, Jermaine Illuminor is definitely a guy I would take and hope the Bengals target. Actually, I think he would not only, number one, be cheap and cheaper than all the other guys I listed, but I think he's been an effective right tackle. I don't think he's a good player, but he's also eliminates me forcing the pick at right tackle in round one if I can get an Illuminor, which I am going to make an offer for him of this grouping. And I'm going to say I can get him for 7.250 per year. I don't even know if I have to go that. Let's go straight up 7 for let's do 3 years. Let's do their Bobby Hart contract. 7 for 3 years, and we will guarantee 35% of it. So 1 year for Illuminor guaranteed. And that'll be offered. It doesn't go through right away. You have to click when you're done submitting for the day. So that's what I'm submitting for right tackle. Let me see if there's an obvious guard upgrade. There's a few guys that I actually would be interested here. Going all the way down to Damian Lewis. John Simpson, not really. Ezra Cleveland, yeah, if he's cheap. Robert Hunt is a very, very good guard. I mean, if you spent the money there and said we're going to draft our right tackle, I would be all in on the Bengals plan there. I'm not going to touch center now, but if any of these guys are still hanging out later, I will circle back around. Defensive tackle to me is the number 2 need for the Bengals. So let's see how many guys would we take care. I would clearly, if Leonard Williams, Chris Jones, want to come to the Bengals and they're still sitting there in a week the same way they did with Orlando Brown, I think that could be feasible. Otherwise, I don't see it, especially for Jones. I think Jones resets the market and it's not a thing. I think Reeder and Leonard Williams are more likely, especially Leonard Williams. He still has some youth to him. Grover Stewart, fine. BJ Hill level player, I would probably say. I think Sheldon Rankins is definitely better. These aren't in order. I don't know what order they put these in, but I think Rankins is a much better pass rusher, but getting close to that age 30 season. Danico Autry, I really love, always have, but he is over the age 30. So I'm going to keep scrolling down just a bit here. And I'm wondering if there's anyone that really interests me, like a Bilal Nichols or an Ashawn Robinson. Shelby Harris, I think would be great in a rotation. Poof. You know who I would love to get is Justin Matabike. And again, I put him up here with these guys, so I don't know if this goes in order. He's still going to cost me a lot of money. I don't know if there's a depth level guy that I absolutely need to have here. Tim Settle, I guess, is fine. Shelby Harris, I would take. It depends on what they get. So okay, so I'm going to go with Tim Settle, who's a big body but plays a little bit of nose tackle, and I'm not going to spend a lot here. I'm going to say 3.25, and give him a 2-year deal because it's early in free agency. These guys aren't taking. Um, and I'm going to give him 50% on a 2-year deal. And we're going to keep it moving there. I'm going to look at some corners. I would like a 4th corner here. This is where if Awuzie is still there later in the process, we will be looking at it. Is there anyone there that I really, really like? You know who I think is really great 4th corner is Dane Jackson for the Bills. He's been their 4th corner, but he's had to play a lot because of the injuries they've had. Trey White going out. How many years? He's played both outsides. He's played in the slot as well. Good special teamer. So then you have to be as a 4th corner. I'd be really interested in Dane Jackson. Like ideally, I think he's a perfect number 4 corner, but I don't want to spend too much again. So I'm thinking 3.2. A guy that can start, has started, but is largely a special team. This is the Nick Scott contract type thing. And let's see if we can get him on that. And now a safety. I would really like to get a free safety in here. That could work. Delpit already extended, so I'm just gonna ignore him and look at these guys. How many of these guys are free safeties? Or do I just get a veteran guy that can fit in there? Cameron Curl is good. Those guys are gonna get a lot of money. Alohi Gilman, I would take. Geno Stone is the guy I would absolutely love to steal from the Ravens, and at this point would be our biggest signing. Would I give Illuminor 7? Let's go with Geno Stone. Would the Bengals go that high? Okay, so we're not paying Dax too much. We're paying nothing to Jordan Battle. We saved 2.3 on Nick Scott. Could I go like 3 years at 6 million per year? Would that even be enough, or is Geno Stone going to break the bank? I think his pedigree will stay with him. I'll even guarantee just a little bit more to see if we can get that. Okay. So I'm done submitting for today, and let's see how it goes. At the top here, Jermaine Illuminor accepted our offer. Geno Stone accepted our offer. Hey, the two biggest guys that I wanted to go for right there. Great. And I'm going to say this too as well. If you're expecting to see me to go after tier 1 guys, I don't think the Bengals do. The only tier 1 guy I've ever had them signing is DJ Reader. Other than that, they've been great, absolutely great at identifying the 25, 26-year-old tier 2 and tier 3 guy that's just entering his prime. The Von Bell, the Trey Hendrickson, the Chidobe Awuzie, the Mike Hilton. Like, you've got to, those are the signings that built this team. Don't get me wrong, DJ Reader was one of them as well. But once that was before, like, that's without paying anyone else on your roster. Now that you're paying a quarterback, you need to live with those tier 2, tier 3, and even tier 4 free agents. And man, I'm telling you right now, I think Geno Stone is well worth that $6 million. Illuminor, I probably overpaid him a little bit, $7 million per year. Let's see what they factor the cap hit to be. So the cap hit year 1, great. We're in the money. We're fine. Jermaine Illuminor, $5.25 million. Geno Stone, $4.5 million. That's great. We're doing great there. And that, why is the first year cap hit? So I gave him $7 million per year for Illuminor. Why is the cap hit only 5.25? Guys, you can spread the cap hit over the life of the deals. So who'd we miss other than that? We went after Tim Settle, and he didn't want that type of money. Maybe Shelby Harris will. What was it? 3.25? 250? 1, 2, 3. For 2 years. We're guaranteed 50% of it. See if Shelby Harris will take that. And Dane Jackson didn't take that. 3 million, Dane Jackson, you want to take 3 million? We'll see then. I'll let it roll. Oof. There are other guys I would take. I mean, and a lot of these guys are big names. I'm surprised they're listed in the, maybe they're not listed in that order then. I'll go another day for, I mean, because would I take low end? Shaq Griffin, Jeff Okuda, Trey Herndon? Yes. Does Stephon Gilmore want to come for a year and rotate with DJ Turner? Yeah, but I would take that. But would I sign that right away? Would the Bengals sign that right off the rip? I don't think so. Is there any? Do we upgrade punter? Do we say, hey, I think we could. Can I at least get someone in here that can compete with Brad Robbins without breaking the bank? Let me just get some competition in here. Only guarantee. I don't even want to guarantee a year because of what if Robbins shows up and he's great. I mean, you could trade a punter, right? Can you? Okay. I want to circle back to running backs. Remember, we cut Joe Mixon. I would still like to have a veteran in here with Chase Brown. Do we go big for Saquon Barkley? I mean, we're talking the best running backs are going to get 10 million for Barkley, 8 for Pollard, Swift, 7, 8, Eckler, 7, 8. When I take Zach Moss, of course. I mean, we're talking as long as it's cheap enough. If it's 5 million and less, I'd be interested in these guys. J.K. Dobbins for cheap. He hasn't been healthy. Gus Edwards, still a power back. I'd take Gus Edwards. He's always been a fine player. Can I get Devin Singletary and Clyde for what they got last year, basically, for Singletary? 3.25 million, whatever it was. Yeah, I would do that. Damian Harris coming off an injury, I would take him as the power guy. Hmm. I have no people are way more interested in Jerick McKinnon than I ever am. Deonta Foreman, I would take Deonta Foreman, to be honest with you. I would take Naheem Hines too. He's coming off injury as well, though. But if I just want a power guy for cheap, 2.25, let's say, for 2 years, and we'll guarantee 50% of it. You know what? It's only 2.25. I don't care if I guarantee 75% of it. That may not be Bengal way, but all right, we'll see. Let's see how that goes. We got Deontay Foreman. I'll take that for a power back to rotate with Chase Brown. And we're saving money there. We've ended up saving three because we saved what 5.8 on Mixon. So save 3.5. Shelby Harris and Braden Mann both declined our offer. And the day is not growing great so far. I mean, that we need these depth guys to be interested in signing. I'll tell you what. Okay, tight end is going to be my next topic here. So at tight end, remember some of the top guys got signed, which I'll be honest with you, Hunter Henry, sure, but on a cheap deal, and I don't mean too cheap, 8 million. I'd be fine for the 1 or 2 year deal. I mean, he makes the tight end room better, but like I said, I'm trying to spend a little bit on the guys we have. I'm trying to spend on Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson, 5.5 million for the two of them. Hopefully, it's not that much. Can you keep Hudson for less? Can you not tender him? Maybe. But of these guys here, who I really like, and maybe you wouldn't sign a Sample if I can get a Colby Parkinson for 2.5. Like Colby Parkinson should be pretty cheap. And I would be interested in signing him right now, to be honest with you. I would take an Adam Troutman and see if there's anything there. I've always liked Logan Thomas a lot. Noah Fant, I'm fine with. Do you want to spend $9 million on Noah Fant? I don't know that I do. I'd really love to draft one. I think with Hudson and Sample, I can afford to say I don't need to have one of these guys, and let's spend that money and try and get a real defensive tackle in here. Because if I end up spending 4 million, 2 million, 3 million, just going to take away a little bit of what we're working with these guys. So I'm going to circle back. I'm first going to go bigger. Let's see if we can get a Leonard Williams in here. And I'm going to say, can we get him for 12.5? That's what I left with DJ Reader, I think. If I can go younger, 3 years, guarantee 40% of it, a little bit more than what the Bengals would do. We can offer there. And that's going to be a big chunk of our cap space. So I'm going to see if we can get that first. Decline your offer. Killing me here. Okay, so we can't get him for that. All those guys are still there. Can we circle back around now on these punters? Who will take my cheap offer? I don't want to spend too much here. 1.5. Is that crazy or what? Can I say 2 years and I'll guarantee 50% of it? Wait, is that why the last guy didn't? Because I didn't want to guarantee anything on it. And come back to Dane Jackson. I'd really like it to be Dane Jackson. I think he's a great fit. And then what I do 3.2 last time. Some time is spent. Let's go this. Let's just upgrade it a little bit more. Let's call it 2 years and let's give a little bit more on the guarantee side and see if we can get that. Okay, so let's circle back to we got punter and corner going there, and they both declined. They are killing me. I'm trying to go too cheap on these guys, aren't I? Okay, reader. This is when I come back to you with what I offered and say, hey, you've been sitting out there a little bit, man. No one's really moving at these positions. There's some value here. If we can get you back, and I'm going to upgrade the percent guarantee just a little bit on that and see what we can do. Declined your offer. And it is starting to really slow down. Blake Cashman didn't get nothing. What is that? Blake Cashman's a solid player. Okay. We may not have too many more swings at this thing. So I'm going to have to make a decision here if we can go cheaper. Justin Matabike is still there. I'm going to swing for the actual fences. Give him 13 million per year since he's still there. And I know Chris Jones is still there too, but if I can go young, 4-year deal, we're talking cornerstone player on the defense. And I will guarantee just a little bit more than normal because 25% would be 1 year. I'm going to go to 30. And I'm going to circle back around and I'm going to say Chidobe Awuzie. Oh, Woozier found a job, didn't he? I don't see him. Hey, good for you, Cheeto. We took too long. We messed around a little bit too much. Dane Jackson, stop playing with me. A weird number there because I typed that backwards, but that's what you get. That's what we're messing with. 2 years, and I wouldn't guarantee 65% of it because we're not offering you too much here. And then can I get a punter? I got to go to someone else. Go with a Thomas Morstead. Come on. Let's see. You still got. I'll go up a little bit more. And I'm going to guarantee much more of it if I have to. Get a 2-year deal just to see here, and then we'll go 65%. Come on now. All right. We got Justin Madubuike. We have really struggled to get these depth guys to agree to these contracts. But man, did we just take Geno Stone and Justin Madubuike from the Ravens. Madubuike is a guy that on our draft sheet 4 years ago was graded extremely high. So like for me to see his production this year, not a surprise. I'm not shocked. I don't think it's a 1-year thing. I don't think it's a 1-year wonder. I don't think it's just going to fall off. He's done almost exactly what our draft sheet said. Hey, this is his upside. He has hit it. He has nailed it. He's a very good 3-tech. Our pass rush just took a major step forward. And I don't think we're going to dive into the corner pool and get one. I don't think we're going to dive into the tight end pool and get one. I think we're going to say these are our 4 players that we were able to acquire: a new starting right tackle, a free safety, definitely that can rotate in, start, whatever you want to call it, but he gives you a true free safety, frees up Dax Hill, makes your coverage better, and you got an interior pass rusher, and one of the best interior pass rushers in the league. He's going to make Trey Hendrickson better, hopefully Miles Murphy. And I'm not done. Like, I still want to draft a defensive tackle here. In real life, I would say these are our major signings are done and we're going to relax now. This would be March, the second week of free agency. We got the Madubuike on basically what Orlando Brown's deal, kind of how that went down. You're leaving a rival coming over here for less than you probably thought you were going to get because you're still out there. And now we're going to say, all right, we're going to chill now a little bit more. Remember, we still need some money to sign Jamar Chase at a future date and take his cap hit from $9 million probably to $20 million. But again, that's after, if we have to make cuts and do things that later in the offseason, that's what we will do. We can always restructure and work on BJ Hill and Sam Hubbard now that we're adding a premium talent and athlete to the defensive line. It lessens your need because now we're working with one of the most expensive D lines in the league again this year. Lessens your need to absolutely have BJ Hill and Sam Hubbard. So it changes things up a little bit. In real life here, I would hang out for a few weeks and then try and circle back around at the corner depth, circle back around at the punter depth and see who's still out there. I would circle back around on like a Matt Hennessy. In fact, I would offer him something now. Matt Hennessy is a guy that also I thought could end up being a starting level offensive lineman in this league. And he played for about a year and a half before getting hurt the last year and a half at an absolutely high level. Guard or center, elite athlete. Let's see what he has left. And he accepted it. You know what? We got 2 offensive linemen. I think Hennessy can battle with Cordell Volson at left guard. If anything happens, and we've been lucky that those guys have stayed healthy on the interior for the most part. If anything happens with Karras, if anything happens with Kappa, you got another starter in there. And I'm not spending too much here. Like, even let's look at the cap hit there on Hennessy, $2.4 million, whatever, right? For a depth guy, he's better than Cody Ford on the inside if he's healthy. So this is me as a shot in the dark to try and see if we can upgrade this O-line health and depth. And I think we have, by spending what we were spending $13 million on Jonah Williams last year, we're turning that into less than $8 million. Great. Fine. And it doesn't preclude us from drafting an offensive lineman at 18, which I think is key. Doesn't preclude us from drafting a defensive tackle. Probably does in the first round, but like a nose tackle like Devondre Sweat in round 2, or a depth defensive tackle in round 3, 4, 5. I would like to get a big body nose guy in here, so that's where we will focus now, looking at the draft. But other than that, I think our needs from here, our major needs are I really want to get a developmental tight end. And that could be a guy as early as Brock Bowers, round 1, obviously, clearly. Uh, or in, round 2, 3, and so on. I'd love to get a wide receiver that can start in terms of a replacement for T. Higgins if it goes down that route in a year. And remember, that's another part too. We can always trade T. Higgins now. Like there's other guys in here where you're like, hey, I'm not done. I'd look, hey, you want to come back for 1 year? DJ Reader and Paramedic and Reader next to each other, and we're cutting BJ Hill, and we are trading T. Higgins and getting a first rounder and drafting a receiver, whatever, however you want to look at it. There's still moves to be made. You can still free up some cap space. But I think drafting a receiver is still high on the board. So we got tight end receiver. I would still always draft O-line. Always. I mean, you can find an upgrade. If you draft a right tackle that can start this year, and you're like, all right, we're going to kick him to left guard, do the Andrew Whitworth thing for a year, and he plays over Cordell Volson, 5. And then you have 5 good starting linemen. Someone's going to get hurt on that O-line. That's how it works. But then you go to running back. I would still draft a running back, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. Have it turn it into a 3-headed monster because I'm not bringing Travion Williams back. We lost Joe Mixon. We got Foreman and Chase Brown. Draft another one. I'm definitely drafting a corner. I'm definitely drafting a linebacker. So we're looking at linebacker, corner on defense for sure. Tight end, running back, wide receiver, O-line. That's 6 of our 9. We can be free with a few of those picks to focus on depth and upside players. I'm just seeing if anyone else signs here before we move on. No other offers. So then it automatically takes you to more of a review here to see where you're at, see where your big cap hits are on the roster, which we didn't add anyone huge cap hit. Matt Abike is the biggest one clearly at 9.1. His future cap hits will be much larger. That means because we took him on a 13 per year. So we're saving 4 on this year. It means we got to spread out at least 1 million extra every year after that. So 14 million on average for the final 3 years. So those numbers will roll and get higher and higher. So I have to say, I think I did pretty good there, at least getting 3 new starters, maybe more. Deonta Foreman can help as well. Maybe Matt Hennessy gets in there later. Sure, there's still needs when we discuss those, but let me know what you would have done differently. Should you have signed another player? Should I have signed a different guy? Would you have not gone for Geno Stone, Illuminor? Would you have expected higher free agents? Again, I wasn't even trying to play in tier 1, and to me, just Matabike is tier 1. And maybe not in comparison, I think, to a Chris Jones, but I think he is because of his age and pedigree of what you're getting a guy entering his prime, coming off double-digit sacks at the defensive tackle spot. Not easy. So, yeah, I'm all for that. I wasn't expecting to play in that realm, but we ended up falling in there when the timing worked the way it did, and he was still available. And that's how it worked for Orlando Brown, too. So, what would you have done differently? How do you grade this free agency? And now, like, leave in the comments what you think now the plan has to be in the draft, given that this is what our roster looks like right now. This is episode 56 of Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Goodberry. Until next time, Hooday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.